When Love Was Never Mine. Previous episodes are available in playlist, a link is given in the video description. Episode 9. When Olivia passed by Tom and Jerry, they looked at her with heavy hearts. She smiled at them in an attempt to comfort them. Jack didn't say anything. He watched her board the helicopter silently because he knew that now wasn't the time. In order not to cause trouble to the people on the island, Ethan mustn't die here. However, once he was away from the island, a malicious glint fleeted across Jack's eyes when Ethan happened to look back at him as if he sensed the danger. They met each other's eyes. The two strong men stared at each other for a second. Both of them were aware that today wasn't the end. Olivia wasn't able to bid farewell before leaving the island. She looked at the huge cherry blossom tree and the small wooden house. Martha was standing in front of her house, sending her off. The kids and the neighbors were watching her too. Olivia didn't realize when Jack left. With his back facing her, he advanced deeper into the woods like a lone wolf. Goodbye, everyone, she closed her eyes and thought. It was a pity that she couldn't watch the cherry blossoms bloom. Since Ethan had caused a commotion only to bring her home, everyone definitely knew about it. Thus, her plans had gone out of the window. What's wrong? You hate to leave the island? His low voice rang in her ears. Olivia had to be very careful with her words. The last thing she wished for was to anger him because of a slip of the tongue. She shook her head, not knowing how to respond to that. Telling him the truth would make him angry. On the other hand, he would see through her if she lied. Her fear of Ethan made her blood surge. She didn't know what was the right response. It seemed like Ethan was aware of that. She would flinch when he leaned closer toward her. Like a frightened cat, she watched him with alert eyes. He pulled the jumpy Olivia into his arms. She didn't dare to defy his actions. Therefore, she nestled against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. She shrunk herself as she couldn't read his mind. She wasn't sure how he would torture her the next moment. The helicopter landed at the apron in Miller residence. Olivia was on tenterhooks. Even her legs were wobbling when she alighted from the helicopter. Ethan was looking at her. She was like a stray cat that had grown cautious of humans after getting tortured. His gaze alone was enough to fetter her with fear. Ethan clearly wasn't doing anything. Yet, her body shuddered when he glanced at her. Olivia was finally back, but she was more timid and sensitive than before. She would read his expression carefully and watch her words. Her attitude evoked frustration in him. She stared at his back, sensing his anger. She didn't know why he was livid because she neither did nor said anything. Olivia secretly caressed the pocket that contained the gun, hoping that she wouldn't have to use it one day. As soon as they entered the house, Madame Burgess took Connor elsewhere to play. Olivia followed Ethan upstairs. The moment she entered a room, the door was closed. The lights weren't turned on. A ray of sunlight passed through the opening from the drawn curtains. She could see the dust dancing under the glow of light, as well as Ethan's gulping throat. Darkness shrouded his face, so she couldn't read his expression. On the other hand, the sunlight was cast upon her lips and neck. He caressed her lips, transferring the warmth from his coarse fingertip. She didn't know what kind of trick he had in mind. Right when she was going to say something, his finger traced downward to her delicate collarbones. Ethan's breathing became heavier. She couldn't guess what he was up to at all. When she was going to say something, he finally moved. He bent over, exposing his face to the sun for a brief second before he kissed her. Olivia widened her eyes. For the past few days, she had been guessing how Ethan would torture her. But never in her wildest dream had she imagined it to end up this way. Like a dehydrated man in the desert who finally found water, he carefully savored her lips as if he was afraid of losing them. Her heart raced. Although the sunlight was shining on his face, his eyes were shut. She couldn't read his mind. It had been a long time since Olivia received such gentle treatment from him. While she was in a daze, Ethan suddenly bit her lip. The tingling pain pulled her senses back. He asked coldly, "Are you thinking of him again?" Unbeknownst to him, he was all she could think of. She wasn't in the state of mind to think about others. She replied with a deadpan face, "No. How many times do I have to tell you? We're just friends." He scoffed coldly. Obviously, he was seeing her as his wife who cheated on him. He wouldn't believe anything she said. Not only that, he was getting aggressive. He caressed Olivia's face. "Did he touch you?" She widened her eyes, not expecting that question from him. "No. You'd better not cross the line." Her tone turned icier. His words made her heart ache. His question was like rubbing salt on her wounds. The ache in her heart eclipsed the pain of her wounds. "He touched your hands." Ethan intertwined her fingers obsessively. Olivia's lips parted, but no words escaped through her lips. She did not know how to explain her stance. All she could do was rein her emotions to not agitate him. However, her concession was a provocation to him. He suddenly carried her to the bathroom, prompting her to clutch his shirt. Unpleasant memories began flooding her head as her body trembled. Is he going to go mad again? She wondered. Ethan placed her lightly into the bathtub, saying gently, "Don't be afraid. I'll wash you up." Not this again, she thought. The thought of dipping herself in cold water made her shake her head in denial. "Ethan, don't do this to me. Please." The shower was turned on, and the steam filled the bathroom. Fortunately, it was warm water. Ethan began taking her clothes off until she was left in her undergarments. They had done something more intimate before. It had been 2 years since he last touched Olivia. After experiencing all kinds of incidents, she had mixed feelings for him. Love, resentment, anger, and other emotions jumbled into a ball within her. His touch disgusted her more. "Don't touch me." She hugged her chest, repelled by his touch. With dark eyes, Ethan stared at the woman hugging her knees in the bathtub. She curled into a ball with teary eyes that expressed evident repulsion. He sneered. "What's wrong? You don't want me to touch you?" Olivia could sense his aura turning dangerous. His eyes were devoid of warmth. It seemed like he had a serious misunderstanding about her. She watched him stand up wordlessly. With mockery written all over his face, he was going to leave. Olivia was confident that Ethan was going to do something, not to her, but to the people around her. Quickly, she grabbed his wrist. Ethan stopped in his tracks and looked at Olivia silently. There was only the sound of water splashing from the shower. As tense as the air was, the grasp around his wrist was tight. "Don't go," she lied because that was the only thing she could say. Ethan pinched her chin and commented indifferently, "You're still pleading for him." Olivia felt like she was talking to a wall. No matter what she said, there was only one thing that mattered to him, that she had betrayed and cheated on him. "You're the one who betrayed me," she thought. Frustration was gnawing at her, but she sighed when she thought about Tom and Jerry. Standing up in the bathtub, she hugged Ethan without giving a care about her wet body. The water droplets slowly damped his white shirt, but he didn't push her away. She wrapped her arms around him carefully. The moment her lips pecked his neck, his body became tense. "Ethan, I didn't betray you." Her quivering voice was soft. It was teeming with sorrow and grievance. He reciprocated the embrace and crashed her lips with his. She frowned. It was their first intimacy after 2 years. It was the same embrace that she had yearned for and relied on before this. Yet, she was disgusted when she thought about how he had done it with Marina. Right when she was going to push him away, his phone rang. The ringtone indicated that it was a call from Marina. Olivia sighed, as she had never been this grateful to Marina before. Ethan wanted to proceed, but the ringtone echoed against the walls again and again. Irritated by the noise, he released her. Impatiently, he answered the call. Marina said something that deepened his frown. In the end, he hung up the call with an agitated face. Helplessly, he put on a robe around him. "I got to go out. Stay here and wait for me." A wave of relief washed over Olivia. Noticing her joy, Ethan added sternly, "Do not go anywhere." Once he was gone in a hurry, her body slowly relaxed. It was fortunate that he didn't proceed to the final stage. The man she was once deeply in love with now disgusted her. Olivia took a few pumps of body shampoo. In the bubble-filled bathtub, she began rubbing and cleaning every part of her body that he had touched. The warm water covered her body. Olivia looked into the blurry mirror, staring at her vague silhouette. She asked herself in her head, "Even if I'm able to escape his torture today, will I be able to do the same tomorrow?" Ethan was more despicable than before. Previously, although he gave her the cold treatment due to resentment, she had freedom. Yet, now, he had fettered her body and mentality. When her skin was showing tinges of red due to the long bath, she stood up. Since there was no other way out, she had to step forward bravely. She contacted Calvin. "Calvin, have you found anything?" Considering that it had been days since Olivia left, Calvin should have found something for her. "Olivia, are you all right?" he asked with concern. After the incident on the ship, he had been worried about her. He called her a few times, but it was all in vain. "Sorry for making you worried. I lost contact for a few days to deal with something. I'm fine now." He was relieved to hear that. "That's great. I did find something. Can we talk in person?" Olivia sighed as she was still undergoing punishment from Ethan because of Jack. If she went to meet Calvin in person, she had no idea what Ethan would do to her. She said, "Calvin, honestly, I'm afraid of alerting the other party." I suspect that there's someone keeping an eye on me. Did you carry out your investigation discreetly? He nodded. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Mr. Galloway resigned 2 days after Belle's death. She resigned? What about that man? Olivia's brows were knitted together. It was no wonder that she sensed hostility from the doctor's gaze at that time. He resigned a day before Dr. Galloway did. I dug further. The man was a temporary staff hired through Dr. Galloway. His name was fake. What about Dr. Galloway? She owns a medical license. Her name shouldn't be fake. Calvin responded, her full name is Jennifer Galloway. We studied in the same medical college, but she's my senior by a few years. She pursued her studies abroad after graduation. She returned to the country only this year. He paused momentarily before continuing, I found something interesting. She received financial aid from your father before. Olivia was stunned. It was clearly not a coincidence. Calvin, is there any other information? Maybe about her family or friends, and Belle too. Calm down. I'll tell you everything. He calmed her down. He added, Jennifer was raised by her single mother. Her parents divorced when she was young. A few years ago, her mother passed away due to an illness and she went abroad to further her studies. It's been years since she last contacted her father. Based on Jennifer's background alone, Olivia couldn't figure it out. She wondered if Jennifer had been harmed by Jeff before. Olivia recalled the name list, but Jennifer's name was not on it. This is all I've found out about Jennifer. I can't find her whereabouts after her resignation. As for Belle, her parents have immigrated to another country. They didn't return to the country after she passed away. They didn't like her since she was young because she was a girl. They abused her, so she grew up reserved. And she dropped out of school due to pregnancy. Olivia recalled Belle's pale face. Is her kid alive? If Jeff was the culprit, Olivia would be able to confirm her guess through a DNA test as long as she could find the child. Calvin replied, Sorry, I couldn't track her down after she dropped out of school. I heard that she had an abortion. I've asked someone to check with several public and private hospitals, but I haven't been able to find any relevant records. Olivia's eyes lit up. It's possible that her child is still alive. Belle kept repeating about someone stealing her child away. Olivia finally found hope from the important clue. Olivia was in a good mood as she thanked Calvin profusely. Thank you, Calvin. You've helped me big time. Now, she had to find Belle's child. A DNA test between the child and Jeff would reveal whether he was a scoundrel or not. Calvin said, Don't worry, Olivia. I'll look more into that man. But it seems like he has expected someone to investigate the matter. He left no traces. That's why I'm unable to find anything. I need some time. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Mrs. Miller, are you done yet? Madame Burgess asked. Yet. Olivia hurriedly hung up the call and kept her phone before opening the door. You must be hungry. I made something. You can come on down and eat. Madame Burgess was kind-hearted as usual. Considering her aching stomach, Olivia gladly went downstairs. As soon as she was downstairs, she heard Connor's voice. Mama! Mama! Connor, who was playing with toys, scurried toward her. Her bad mood was appeased at once. She hugged him. Connor! With drool on his mouth, he smiled adorably at her. Olivia recalled Ethan's words and was grateful that she didn't act on impulse back there. She adjusted the emerald necklace around his neck before carrying him to the dining table. She was used to babysitting thanks to her experience on the island. Madame Burgess smiled. Look how happy Master Connor is. Anyone would think that you're his mother. She soon realized that she had put her foot in her mouth. I'm sorry, Mrs. Miller. It wasn't on purpose. It's all right. Olivia shrugged it off. They enjoyed the meal. After the meal, Olivia suddenly realized that something was wrong. Before this, she would lose her appetite whenever Ethan was away because of Marina. She would cry while staring at the door, waiting for him until her stomach ached or the night dawned. It seemed like she was slowly getting over him. The joy upon realization didn't last long. Brent was standing at the door and said with some embarrassment, Mrs. Miller, I'm here to pick Master Connor up. Olivia's smile went stiff, and she slowly released Connor's hand. Right. Ethan isn't mine, and Connor isn't either. Brent walked up to her and apologized, I'm sorry, Mrs. Miller. He carried Connor away, and the latter began crying. Olivia wanted to stop Brent, but she suddenly recalled her position. Who was she to Connor? What right did she have to stop Brent from taking Connor away? In the end, she could only watch the crying boy leave helplessly. Madame Burgess washed the dishes and left the manor, leaving Olivia all alone in the huge house. There were people guarding the gates. It appeared like she had freedom, but she was actually cooped up. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling window, she stared into herself. She wore an ugly smile. Be it before or now, she had always been alone. The only difference was that she no longer had anyone to wait for. Olivia returned to her room. She hugged her knees, staring into the somber sky that was adorned with a full moon. She thought about the people on the island. Tom and Jerry should be asleep at this hour. She figured that she needed to talk with Ethan. At midnight, someone opened the bedroom door. Ethan returned home after dealing with the Carlton family. He initially thought Olivia would wait for him in the living room like before. No matter how late he returned home, she would always sleep on the couch in the living room. She always made sure the lights were turned on when he returned. However, the house was shrouded by darkness when he opened the door. She wasn't on the couch either. Ethan was tipsy. Before this, Olivia would welcome him home. She would grumble while looking for hangover pills for him. She was naggy, but he loved it. Unlike before, he felt cold although the heater was turned on. He opened the bedroom door. Thanks to the lightning from the hallway, he could see the bump on the bed. Olivia fell asleep a moment ago. Ethan pulled her into his embrace. The air that reeked of alcohol woke her up. You drank? Hearing her groggy voice, he grumbled, Olivia, you've changed. It didn't make sense to her. Are you kidding me? You're the one who had a change of heart first. He wrapped his arms tightly around her. He appeared mild at the moment. I didn't. I never did. His drowsy voice rang into her ears. Olivia didn't buy it. After all, his and Marina's son was already a year old. How could he claim that he never had a change of heart? Nevertheless, she knew his character all too well that she should let him be. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to have a good night's sleep tonight. Just like that, she nestled in his arms quietly. She didn't want to tick him off. As she had expected, her obedient reaction comforted him. Ethan hugged her tighter and rested his head on her shoulder. "Liv, I barely found you. Can you not run away again?" It had been a long time since she last heard his gentle tone. If this happened 2 months ago, she would have been elated. Now, it didn't affect her emotions a single bit. She was aware that it was empty words said under the influence of alcohol. Once the sun rose, he would return to his original self again. Love and respect wouldn't be able to fix their relationship anymore. One of them had to have a downfall before they could find peace. That night, Ethan hugged her tightly as if he had found his lost treasure at long last. There were no hurtful words, only gentleness. He soon drifted into dreamland. Olivia, who was used to sleeping alone, couldn't sleep because of his warmth. Belle's death was all she could think of. After making sure that he was deep asleep, she slid out of his arms. She put on a cardigan and sneaked to the study. She reopened the safe, which was unlocked with her birth date. She didn't know whether to see him as fickle or loyal. Olivia was confident that she missed something. Leia's death must be related to Jeff and Belle in some way. Olivia wasn't in a hurry. Instead of reading other people's information, she flipped through Leia's information. Leia's death was taboo to Ethan, so Olivia didn't dare to bring it up before this. Thus, she didn't peruse the documents related to Leia. Aside from Leia's toys, there was a brown paper bag in the safe. Olivia thought, if I'm dead, will my whole life be written on a stack of papers? And be consigned to oblivion after 10 years? Leia's adoptive parents passed away years ago. What about her friends? There should be at least a trace of someone's existence in this world. Olivia snapped pictures of the documents, believing that the truth was hidden within them. While she was on tenterhooks, a cold voice sounded from the door. "Are you done reading?" Olivia raised her gaze to meet eyes with Ethan, who was standing by the door. He hadn't changed into his pajamas before sleeping, so his shirt was crumpled with some undone buttons. He leaned against the door frame lazily. His disheveled hair didn't stop him from looking handsome as always. Olivia was feeling guilty. She wasn't able to completely cut ties with Ethan. In addition to his unappeased anger during the day, she thought of the people from the island and was scared. I couldn't sleep," she explained anxiously while he slowly came up to her. She was sitting on the floor, and the light cast his shadow over her. Judging from his clear eyes, he appeared to be sober. His dark eyes carried zero emotions, so she couldn't read his mood. Olivia hastily placed the documents into the safe while stammering on her words. "I was simply looking around." He held her wrist tightly. Her chest tightened, and her instincts prompted her to beg for mercy. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have read your sister's documents." "Don't be angry," he held her hand while staring at her. He wondered since when the affection and resentment in her gaze had given way to fear. "It's getting late." His voice was hoarse. Olivia looked at him, confused. Ethan set the documents in her hands aside and carried her. You can take your time and read them during the day. She widened her eyes in surprise, thinking, does that mean I can enter his study and read his documents whenever I want? I didn't change the password because I didn't want to hide it from you in the first place. He saw through her. Ethan placed Olivia on the soft bed and hugged her tightly once again. You should rest now. His groggy voice sounded above her. She stared at the silver button on his shirt that reflected the moonlight. His heartbeat was pounding into her ears due to the proximity. Confused, she couldn't follow him at all. If you don't want to sleep, I don't mind continuing our unfinished deeds from the day, he suddenly said. She was surprised and hurriedly shut her eyes. She stayed still. She deemed that he wasn't in his right state of mind. Ethan stared deeply at the sleeping Olivia, who was curled in his arms. It had been a long time since they last slept in each other's embrace. The next morning, his handsome face appeared in her sight the moment she opened her eyes. It was as though time had returned to 3 years ago when she could see him whenever she woke up. A few strands of his fringe rested on his forehead, tickling his furrowed eyebrows. The sleeping man appeared harmless. There was a thin layer of stubble around his tense jaw. Olivia instinctively reached out to smoothen the crease between his brows. Her hand halted mid-air when she recalled that they were divorced. When she was going to withdraw her hand, Ethan opened his eyes. Their eyes intertwined mid-air. She could see the tiny dust particles dancing in the air too. Her hand remained stiff in mid-air. Whether she withdrew her hand or not, it would be awkward. While she was thinking of how to resolve the awkward situation, his hand around her waist tightened. He suddenly hovered over her to kiss her lips. Olivia was stunned for a moment. When she finally pulled her senses back, she pushed Ethan away. The fact that he had touched another woman disgusted her. That was the sole reason behind her instinctive reaction. However, he held the back of her head and deepened the kiss, rendering her defiant action in vain. Frowning, she wanted to bite him only to find that he was pinching her cheeks. Men were inherently stronger than women when it came to strength. Thus, she had no choice but to yield to him. When Olivia thought she was going to suffocate to death, Ethan finally let her go. She glared at him with reddened eyes like an angry bunny. His eyes darkened. What's wrong? Am I not allowed to touch you? Before she could respond, he pinched her cheeks harder as he stared at her icily. Her brows knitted at his psychopathic acts. She attempted to pry his fingers off. Release me. If you're frustrated, you can go to Marina. She's your fiancée. Olivia Fordham, it seems like you're taking the liberty of my generosity toward you. Enraged, Ethan grabbed her hands. Learning her lesson from her past experience, Olivia didn't dare to infuriate him by crossing the line. She caved in to him. Although she had raised the white flag, Ethan noticed the unappeased rage in her eyes. He released her and headed to the washroom. She massaged her hurting cheeks while concluding that his mood swings had become more serious than before. Hence, she made a mental note to herself not to enrage him. 10 minutes later, Ethan came out of the washroom. He didn't spare a single glance at her when he passed by her to reach the closet. Olivia was aware of one thing: the angrier he was, the more passive she would become. She opened the other side of the closet to take a suit out. Wear this. It was in grey color, which held a certain solemnity and was relatively casual than black. It was perfect for his schedule today. Ethan approached her. She thought that he would reject her suggestion, yet he trapped her by placing his hand next to her. She retreated in reflex. He drew the distance closer until her back rested against his clothes. She was trapped in the cramped closet. Slightly nervous, she met his eyes. It's been a while since you picked an outfit for me." Ethan caressed her cheeks. Olivia's heart missed a beat as she thought, "He's always known how to make my heart flutter." "You're the one who isn't home all the time," she grumbled helplessly. He leaned toward her to capture her lips with his. She was forced to hug his neck to stabilize herself. The thought of the cramped space made her breathe heavily. She didn't have the guts to shove him away, so she accepted the kiss. Ethan couldn't put his finger on one thing, that was whether his love for Olivia was greater than resentment or vice versa. However, there was something he was sure of. The woman, whom he once thought he could get over, had captured his heart. The ocean of resentment drove them apart, yet he wanted to slog through it only to hold her in his arms. Kissing her and possessing her were the only things he could think about. Ethan wanted to have all of her. Invisible vines that sprouted from his deep feelings wrapped around her. "Olivia, let's make a deal." His voice was hoarse. "A deal?" Olivia looked at Ethan, confused. She had nothing to offer him, so how was she supposed to make a deal with him? The cramped space made it difficult for her to breathe. Even her back was sweating due to the heat. Ethan bent over her slightly. The water droplets dripped on her cheek from his strand of hair, leaving a cold stain on it. "Stay by my side, then I'll wipe the slate clean with the Fordham family," he proposed sternly. His proposal repeated in her head before she asked calmly while meeting his eyes, "Stay by your side as what?" He paused momentarily. "I can give you anything aside from the title of Mrs. Miller." She said clearly, "So you want me to be your mistress?" The disgraceful word displeased him. He knitted his eyebrow while explaining, "Aside from a title, we can get along like how we did in the past." "The past?" she chuckled. Olivia was aware that she should be the meek party in order to win some favor for herself from the negotiation. However, his condition was infuriating her. The balloon of anger was inflating, on the verge of exploding. She grabbed something in the closet. Smiling, she approached him. "Really? You can give me anything that I want?" It was a long time since he last saw her smile. Only then did Ethan realize that he wished to see her smile more than resenting her. Bewitched, he nodded. "Yes. What do you want?" Olivia drew closer to him as her lips reached his ear. "I want..." Suddenly, the image of her kissing his neck crossed his mind. He gulped his saliva. Next, she hit his head with a box that contained a necktie. "I want you dead. Why can't you just go to hell, you scumbag?" I wonder how a human could say such cruel things. Are you out of your mind? You divorced me and now you're asking me to be your mistress. I can't believe an ugly man like you can be this frivolous. Ethan, who was caught off guard, hissed in pain because he didn't see that coming. She grabbed him by the collar. "If you loved me, why would you have Marina by your side? You're engaged to her and yet you won't let me go. Is this your kink? Do you take pleasure in having affairs? Her beating didn't anger him, but her words did. Olivia Fordham, shut up. I can never let this off, Ethan Miller. You destroyed my family and made us go bankrupt. My father is in a coma because of you. How could you say that to my face? I'm going to send you to hell today, she shouted. Exasperated, Ethan pulled her out of the closet. Olivia took the chance to punch and kick him. You want me to be your mistress? Dream it on, you hideous man. I bet you're the reincarnation of Zeus. I've never met someone as frivolous as you are. It's not like there are no other men in this world. Why must I stay by your side? Her face turned crimson. She continued, instead of mistress, I'd rather be your mother. I would have ended your life as soon as I gave birth to you. Her scoldings ticked him off. His eyes were dangerously dark when he raised his hand. She raised her chin at him without a care of the consequence. Go ahead. It's best you hit me to death right now. Olivia shut her eyes. She was prepared for the slap, but the expected pain never came. By the time she opened her eyes, he walked away while holding the grey suit she had chosen. He slammed the door shut with a loud thud, leaving her alone in the room. She slid onto the floor as her knees became weak. A moment ago, she was so livid that she didn't realize she was sweating. Her body was trembling, too. But she didn't know if it was out of anger or fear. Ethan's gaze was so frightening that she thought she was never going to make it until tomorrow. It was her first time reprimanding him ever since they got together. She bet she was the first person to do that to him. She patted her chest. Her racing heartbeat wasn't able to calm down until now. A few minutes later, Madame Burgess rushed into the bedroom. Looking at Olivia's pale face, Madame Burgess sighed. Mrs. Miller, what did you do? I've never seen Mr. Miller this angry before. Olivia finally regained her composure. She tucked her hair behind her ears and smiled. Nothing. It's just a fight. Madame Burgess was upset by the answer. She seated herself next to Olivia. Mrs. Miller, although he has another woman, I don't think he has feelings for that vixen. Previously, when you were not around, he returned to the Miller residence every day. Take the recent incident, for instance. When you and the young master went missing, he couldn't sleep nor eat well. He fell sick for a long time. His complexion finally regained its color these days. Madame Burgess placed her hands on Olivia's shoulders. Please bear with my nagging. I watched Mr. Miller grow up. You're the only woman he brought home. The feelings he has for you aren't the same as for others. He deserves a punishment for his wrongdoings, but you should consider his genuine feelings. Olivia thought of Ethan's face and sneered. Genuine feelings? Those feelings are too burdensome for me. Mrs. Miller, enough, Madame Burgess. I know what I'm doing. Olivia didn't want to hear Madame Burgess say good words for him. Madame Burgess sighed deeply. Mrs. Miller, I'm saying this for your sake. It's not like you don't know his character. If you don't compromise, you will eventually be the one at a loss. Olivia was stunned for a second. She didn't like what Madame Burgess said, but they were true. Madame Burgess added, I can tell that he's never going to let you go after what has happened. If you're going to keep your relationship with him rigid, that Vixen is going to benefit from it. Mrs. Miller, you still have a long way ahead of you. If you're left with no choice, why not make your life easier? Right now, the route you've chosen is making both you and him suffer. Olivia thought of the incident on the island and the matters she had yet to finish investigating. If Ethan was going to confine her forever, it would be a dead end for her. I understood, Madam Burgess, Olivia said. Good. Men are easy to please. They're like kids. Please don't let that Vixen take advantage of your situation, Mrs. Miller. Olivia was still holding Ethan's box. Last night, she figured that she needed to talk to him. But the fight this morning had put her plans on hold. That afternoon, Olivia came across an article online. The delayed engagement ceremony between the Millers and the Carltons was going to be held at the end of the month. There was a picture of Ethan and Marina. He was wearing a stoic face in a grey suit while Marina held onto his arm with a sweet smile. The grey suit was the one Olivia picked for him. They seemed to be a match made in heaven. Olivia felt like her old scars were being reopened painfully. Madam Burgess, who noticed Olivia's pale face, quickly set her phone aside. Madam Burgess, why are you reading that? That picture is an eyesore. You should look at heartthrobs in entertainment to make your day. I heard that there's a newly debuted idol group called EXO. The way they twist their waists is really hot. Olivia, who was in a bad mood, chuckled at that. You know this kind of stuff. Madam Burgess placed her hand on Olivia's shoulder. Mrs. Miller, people can never be perfect. We learn what's right or wrong through mistakes. We shouldn't punish ourselves because of others' mistakes. Olivia was surprised to learn that Madam Burgess was actually on her side. Madam Burgess continued, if Mr. Miller divorced you, he could divorce Marina in the future, too. Give yourself some time. I know. Prepare the ingredients. I'll make dinner tonight for tonight, interrupted Olivia, as she didn't want to hear the rest. Madam Burgess' eyes lit at her rare attempt to please Ethan. To Madam Burgess, Olivia and Ethan were the perfect match. She was certain that the engagement was done because of his impulsive decision. Thus, his relationship with Marina wouldn't be able to last long for sure. Okay. I'll call Mr. Miller, Madam Burgess said. Olivia turned her phone off and stood up with a cold expression. She recalled what had happened for the past 2 years. The Fordham family had fallen, and her father was in a coma. Ethan wasn't the sole cause for what happened to her. It was an undeniable fact that love blinded her vision, causing her to forget about others. That was why there was an opening for others to take advantage of her. Olivia didn't have much time left. Hence, she shouldn't waste time by having a fight with Ethan. Didn't people grow up by withdrawing their claws and putting on a mask? The presidential management staff made sure to hush their breaths. Layer upon layer of burden weighed on them. It might take them one trivial mistake to enrage Ethan. Brent stood next to him while holding a huge pile of documents. Ethan's eyebrows had not stopped furrowing since morning. Mr. Miller, the news of your engagement with Ms. Carlton has gone viral online, said Brent. Although Ethan didn't respond to that as he read a document, Brent was aware that he was distracted. Not only had he been reading that page for 5 minutes, the document was upside down. I received a call from Madame Burgess. She wants to leave the house. Ethan finally responded. Judging from her scoldings this morning, he assumed that she was causing a ruckus at home to leave. No. Madame Burgess asked if you're going to go home for dinner. Mrs. Miller is making dinner tonight, Brent corrected. Despite the good mood, Ethan snorted. Tell her that I'm busy. After giving it a thought, Brent decided to persuade him. Mr. Miller, a lot of things have happened to Mrs. Miller recently. She's thinner than she was in the past. Please be gentle to her. Ethan pointed at the scratch on his chin. Do you think that she's gentle to me? I bet she has realized her mistake. She's making dinner to make up for it. Ethan threw the document in his hand onto the table. And must I forgive her because of that? Does she think that she's the only one I need? I didn't punish her for escaping, though. Just what does she want me to do? He kept thinking about how Olivia and Jack held hands on the island. Suppressing the churning resentment in him, he let out a long sigh. He slammed the table. Even if I have to jump off this building, I am not going to go home to have dinner with her. Brent relayed the message to Madame Burgess over the phone. 5 minutes later, Ethan's phone rang. Brent didn't know what Olivia said, but he noticed that Ethan's mood was improving. Do as you wish. Ethan hung up the call with a smile. When he met Brent's questioning eyes, he coughed. She wants to bring me dinner. But on her own accord. I didn't force her. Brent was at a loss for words. No one knew Ethan's favorites better than Olivia. Thus, it should be easy to please him. The only tricky part was whether he would give her the chance. Back then, she had prepared dinner for him a few times as well. Each time, she waited until midnight. Yet, there was no sign of his return. He would give her the cold shoulder without batting an eye. No matter what she said, he wouldn't meet her. Olivia was testing the waters when she called Ethan. Apparently, he wasn't as cruel as he was before. After making dinner, she went to Miller Group by car. She was deeply absorbed in her thoughts while hugging the lunch boxes. The mastermind knew Ethan and Olivia's situation like the back of his hand. Hence, it was highly possible that he was an acquaintance of Ethan's. But who could it be? Kelvin and Brent clearly could not be the mastermind. Madame Burgess was out of the question because she wouldn't be able to keep things to herself. Could it be one of the workers in the Miller Group? Olivia didn't visit him at work before they divorced. At that time, she assumed he was protecting her privacy. Now, it seemed like a joke to her. The public was aware of Ethan and Marina's engagement. It was all over the news. Yet, there wasn't a huge change to Olivia's identity. Be it the past or present, she was kept in the dark like a dirty secret. She took the presidential elevator to go to the highest floor of the building. Every employee had clocked out at this hour. Only Ethan and his secretaries were working overtime. Her feet halted by the door. There were 6 secretaries working for him. She could recognize the 4 men and 2 women. The moment she entered the office, she met eyes with a lady sitting in a corner. The lady adjusted her spectacles. Olivia couldn't see her eyes due to the reflection of the glass. Mrs. Miller, Mr. Miller's office is right ahead." Brent showed Olivia the way. The secretaries were buried in their works. She couldn't observe much from that brief glimpse. In order not to alarm them, she quickly left the area. Brent knocked on the door, and an icy voice came from the inside. "Come in." He opened the door for Olivia before taking his leave. The curious secretaries came up to him. "Brent, who's that woman?" Ethan was known for his aloof attitude toward women. Other than for collaboration purposes, no women had ever shown up at this hour. Brent smacked William Dante's forehead. The latter was the liveliest among the secretaries. "You talk too much. Have you finished your work yet?" Brent said. William covered his forehead while muttering a few curses under his breath. Brent looked at everyone. "Focus on your job." "Yes, Brent." Everyone was eager for the gossip, but no one dared to start the discussion first. Meanwhile, Olivia was looking at Ethan, who was working. It was such an irony that she only visited him at work after the divorce. It seemed like he was so preoccupied with work that he didn't acknowledge her arrival. She placed the lunch boxes on the table neatly. The stars twinkled in the somber sky, and the city was illuminated. Ethan appeared stoic under the lights. He didn't spare Olivia a single glance as of now. Pin-drop silence filled the office. She didn't have an inkling to his thoughts. Judging from how he didn't hit her despite her scoldings this morning, she was confident that he wouldn't be physical here. Mustering the courage in her, she approached him. The closer the distance was, the more intense she could feel his presence. Even though he hadn't uttered a word, his presence filled the air. She walked up behind him, wanting to talk nicely with him. However, the moment she saw the back of his head, her hand instinctively grabbed the ashtray. The ashtray was heavy. It was difficult for Olivia to hold it with one hand. She wondered if the blood would splatter on her face if she flung it at Ethan. Her unconscious thoughts scared even herself, too. At that moment, Ethan looked back at her. They met each other's eyes. Before he could say anything, she asked, "Why did you smoke so much?" When he noticed the ashtray in her hand, the first thing that came to his mind was that Olivia was going to murder him with it. But her question nipped his suspicion. Ethan was wearing an indifferent expression. "Does that have anything to do with you?" His voice was full of disdain. She set the ashtray down. "Next time, she'll use something sharp to finish him off." Suppressing her displeasure, Olivia tugged at the hem of his sleeve. "I crossed the line this morning. I'm sorry." Ethan stared at her face, which appeared paler under the light. She came without makeup. Although she was pretty, she didn't look lively. It still softened a part of his heart all the same. Ethan could never handle it when Olivia acted cute while tugging his shirt. Whenever she acted that way, he could even pluck a star from the sky if she wanted him to. "Where's dinner?" he questioned, finally relaxing the mood. "Here." She gladly went along with it and pushed the meal box in front of him. There was fried chicken, lasagna, salad, and fruit. The cherry tomatoes in the salad were arranged into a heart shape. It was simple, yet it catered to his liking. Ethan, who hadn't been able to have the food she made, stared at the heart-shaped salad for a while. Memories of her first cooking experience crossed his mind. She was clumsy but serious about preparing him a lunchbox. That day, Olivia ended up with a few blisters on her hands. Yet, she presented the nicely plated dish to him with a grin. "Here. I made it. Even if it's not tasty, you got to finish it." At that time, there was always a smile plastered on her face. Unlike before, she lost self-confidence whenever she stood next to him. Her actions were careful and timid. Noticing Ethan's silence, Olivia prompted gingerly. "These lunch boxes are insulated. The food isn't cold. Give them a try." She handed him the cutleries. The familiar taste melted in his mouth, walking him down memory lane. Is it delicious?" she asked nervously. He was utterly speechless. Since when did she become so timid around him? "Weren't you all fired up this morning?" He raised his gaze to look at her. She pursed her lips. "Sorry. I lost control of my emotions." "Have you eaten?" She lowered her gaze. "I haven't. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to come in time before the food got cold." In actuality, she had eaten her fill at home. He pulled Olivia onto his lap. "Let's eat together." She pretended to be flustered. But Ethan fed her a spoonful of meat. "It's too big of a bite," she grumbled and pouted. He then gave her a smaller bite of chicken. "Here." "Okay." She ate it obediently, hoping that she wouldn't burp. As soon as she wished for that, a burp surged to her throat and escaped her lips. Olivia's burp was loud in the silent room before stillness inflated in the air. She didn't expect herself to give the game away that quickly. Feeling awkward, she looked at Ethan. "I can explain." She blurted that in the heat of the moment, making matters worse. She observed his expression carefully only to realize that his face was free from annoyance. Worry sat upon his brows instead. She thought, did I misread his expression? He resents me to his bones. Why would he be worried about me? Have more if you're hungry. He gave her a spoonful. She was confused as she thought, does he think that I burp because I'm hungry? In the end, Olivia was stuffed when the meal was actually made for Ethan. Enough. I'm full. She could feel her stomach bursting. He frowned. You're all skin and bones. How could you eat only this little? Then, he fed her another spoonful of lasagna. Her cheeks were puffed like a chipmunk. At this moment, a woman in spectacles opened the door. "Mr. Miller, we need a signature from you for this doc." Never in her life has she imagined herself to witness such a scene. The solemn Ethan, who abhorred contact with women, was hugging and feeding Olivia. His humility put the secretary in a trance. Olivia swallowed the food in a hurry and choked on it. Her face turned red instantly. "Water," Ethan gave her a glass of water. How could a grown-up choke on food? She hugged his neck and nuzzled his cheek. "I was surprised. That's all." Her gentle voice sent slight shudders across his body. It made his heart flutter. Olivia's breathing was brushing his ears. He turned his head away to look at the shocked secretary. "Who told you to come in?" "Leave." I'm sorry, Mr. Miller." She quickly closed the door. Although she was hugging Ethan's neck, she had been watching that secretary from the corner of her eyes. Everyone around him was on Olivia's suspect list. The opponent's objective was to drive Olivia and Ethan apart. Thus, the opponent wouldn't like it when they were intimate. Too bad there weren't many emotions shown on the secretary's face. As soon as the door was closed, she released him. That secretary is bold. She entered the office without your permission. Jealousy seeped into her tone, and he was in a good mood because of that. She was in a hurry to get her job done, so she didn't think much about it. I'm full. You can dig in. She hopped off Ethan's lap as if she had achieved her objective. Olivia stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, which made her appear petite. Mixed feelings churned in his stomach as Lia watched her back. She was gazing at the illuminated city, where she didn't feel a sense of belonging. He placed the cutleries down without her knowing and came up behind him. Something on your mind? About you and Marina's engagement ceremony. I heard that she's chosen Cherry Blossom Haven as the venue. It'll be gorgeous when the cherry blossoms bloom, she described it with tranquility. Slowly, she turned around and looked at him. Speaking about it, you still owe me a wedding. When Olivia said that, she forced herself to recall the sad memories so that she could look at Ethan with teary eyes. She knew that being ferocious against him wouldn't do. After all, they were once husband and wife. She knew his character more than anyone else did. Softening his heart was the best option. Her voice was calm, free from complaints and doubts. Tears were pooling in her eyes, too. Although tears can disgust someone, they could be a weapon when it was used at the right time. Now, Ethan's throat parched due to guilt. I know. He lowered his head in self-reproach. He held her shoulders and licked his lip before saying, I know that many things have happened between us. We cannot turn back time either. Let's put an end to Leia's matter. Stay by my side. I'll take good care of you. That was the most significant concession he could make. Frigid numbness shackled her heart. He was the person who hurt her deeply in the past. How could she forget about it only because he promised to look after her? In order not to ruin her plan, Olivia expressed sorrow and rested her head against his chest. Facing her advance, Ethan had never been this nervous before. After all, this was the same woman who yelled while pointing at him fiercely in the morning. Yet, she turned gentle at night. Their interactions were mostly on the edge for the past 2 years. Such a calm moment was rare between them. His body went tense as he quietly waited for her to say something. Ethan, she called. Olivia's soft voice was like a cat's meow, prompting him to hum in response. She continued, we need to talk. I'm all ears, he said. She hugged Ethan's waist and recounted the whole story on the island in a gentle voice. At first, I was trying to rescue Connor. But I fell in love with that place later on. No one hurt me. Everyone on the island was kind to me. I genuinely want to help them. She raised her head to observe his response. When she was certain that he wasn't acting repulsive to that topic, she added, Tom is cheerful, and Jerry is talented in arts. Martha owned only one thermal underwear, but she made it into a diaper for Connor. What do you want me to do? He was surprisingly receptive. Her expression sparked joy as she told him her plan. Got it, he responded. Olivia gazed at Ethan in anticipation. I can develop the island, but on one condition." Her eyes were twinkling in happiness. "Say it." The squeaky clean window reflected how he bent over to whisper into her ear. "I want you to stay by my side forever. You cannot leave me." Her body shuddered slightly. Previously, he was the person who wanted the divorce. Now, he was the person who wanted her to stay. She couldn't seem to understand him anymore. Considering the few months she had left, she nodded without hesitation. "Okay." Her lifetime came with a limitation. There were a few months remaining. Her quick response made Ethan anxious instead. He had more questions in mind, but it would upset both of them since it was related to their fight this morning. He tightened his arms around Olivia's waist. "If you leave me, I will burn that island. You know that I do as I say, don't you?" His body was warm, unlike his icy tone. Calmly, she tugged his shirt. "Ethan, I have a favor to ask you." It was rare for Olivia to show him her good side. Naturally, Ethan was willing to hear what she had to say. "Yes." Ethan was in a good mood. His tone became lighter without his knowing. Olivia said seriously, "I do not want to be locked in the house like a pet. I had given up on my studies before. I had only lived in sadness these 2 years. I want to have a fresh start." "Let's hear it." Ethan was in a really good mood. That made him more patient, too. Olivia said slowly, "I want to work at your side." In the past, she had lived her life as a housewife. She had been content with living like that, being loved by him. She was okay with not being in the spotlight. But she thought she was too much of a failure when she realized she didn't know the people Ethan hung around with. She didn't even know who they had offended. If she stayed in the dark, she would always be easily manipulated by that person. Olivia has never been as enlightened as she was. In the past 2 years, someone had been pulling the strings in the shadows. Like her relationship with Ethan, she initially thought that it was only because of Marina. But after she gave it a thought, it couldn't have been her. The person forced them to get a divorce. They even destroyed Leia's gravestone to further worsen her relationship with Ethan. The person's manipulation caused them to be where they were now. The picture she received last month also managed to make matters worse. Olivia almost killed Connor. If she hadn't stopped herself that night, it would have been over between her and Ethan. He would likely torture her to death. What an evil scheme! After she understood everything, she did away with her hostility. She wanted to find the mastermind behind it all with Ethan's help. But she couldn't let Ethan in on her plans. Or else she might risk alerting the mastermind. Ethan was deep in thought. He was scanning her face for a clue. He wanted to know what she was plotting. Olivia looked at him openly and said, "I know you don't trust me. That's why I want to work at your side. That's the best way for you to keep an eye on me. I want to learn skills that can help me rebuild the Fordham family. I believe I can accomplish that by learning from you." Olivia knew that was a good excuse. She also knew that Ethan would not suspect anything if she said that. "If you have thought it through, I have no objections." Ethan thought she had a point. He should keep her by his side rather than have her cause trouble on her own. He would be able to keep her from trouble if she was close to him. Olivia suddenly thought of something and curled her lips. My only worry is the Carltons. With how our relationship is now, Marina would not allow me to be around you. In the past, Ethan had always stood by Marina's side firmly. Her plans would risk failure if Marina came and made a fuss. Ethan patted her on the head. He said with an icy glare in his eyes, "She doesn't get to decide if you stay or not." He then said resolutely, "I'm the one who gets to decide that." Via knelt in his arms and said, "Ethan, you're the best." Then so kissed at the cute woman in his embrace. He knew something was not right. But he couldn't put a finger on it. It was as if Olivia became a completely different person overnight. He didn't know if she changed because she finally saw the height or if she was plotting something. But he didn't care anymore. Even if she was plotting something, he thought she would not be able to cause any trouble if he kept her close. So, "Can I start working tomorrow?" Olivia raised her head to look at him seriously. "What position do you want?" Ethan asked. He didn't mind giving her whatever she wanted. Olivia licked her lips and said, "Secretary. The type that stays by your side." Ethan stared deeply into Olivia's eyes. He wanted to see what she was thinking by reading her expression. "What do you want?" Olivia was being too weird. He had no idea what she was plotting. Ethan felt uneasy even though she had become more docile. "I already told you. I wanted to have a fresh start. I don't want to be in the shadows my whole life." Olivia tugged at Ethan's sleeve lightly. Her muffled voice came from within his embrace. "Can I? Is that all you want?" Ethan said in a strained voice. He did not know what to say. "What else can I do? Or are you saying that you're willing to let me go and live in other cities?" Ethan tightened his arms around her voice and said coldly, "Don't even think about it." Olivia smiled bitterly in his arms. He had already said it before. Even in death, she had to stay by his side. She closed her eyes and thought, "As you wish." "As you wish," Ethan said. The voice in Olivia's head and Ethan's voice were in unison. Olivia raised her head to smile at him and said, "Are you full? Do you want to eat some more?" "I'm fine. You should go rest." Olivia broke free from his embrace and said with a serious face, "How can I do that? I am going to be your secretary soon. I need to get used to your daily routine." Ethan looked at her deeply. She had a serious expression. He didn't see anything suspicious. "Do whatever you want." He went back to his seat while Olivia cleaned up the food containers. She saw Ethan make a call from the corner of her eye. Brent quickly entered the room and stood at the side, awaiting orders. "Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller." Brent addressed them. "She will be my personal assistant from now on. Go and make arrangements for that." Brent was shocked. Olivia smiled and said, "Thanks, Brent. Also, I hope that you can keep my identity a secret." "Yes, Mrs. Miller. I'm afraid you'll have to change how you address me." Brent looked at Ethan for confirmation. Ethan nodded at him. "Okay. My apologies. Come with me, Olivia." Olivia quickly followed Brent out of the room. Ethan stared at her back as she was leaving. He decided that he would keep her close. No matter what she was plotting, she would not be able to cause any trouble with him watching. He went back to his work after he came to that conclusion. But for some reason, he was in a better mood than before. Olivia followed Brent to the corridor. Brent looked around and saw that nobody was near. He said, "Mrs. Me, are you sure you want to do this? It's better to be able to work than to be locked up at home. At least this way, I get to go out." Olivia shrugged and said, "I'll be in your care then." "Thanks. You're welcome." After that, Brent took Olivia to the secretary's office and introduced her to everyone. The others were shocked to see a personal assistant join them out of the blue. But they welcomed her warmly. "I'll arrange for you to have a desk tomorrow. You can just familiarize yourself with the other people tonight." "Understood." After Brent left, the 6 people in the office stared at her. But since they all worked under Ethan, they didn't ask her anything, even if they were curious. "Olivia, I'll brief you on Mr. Miller's habits in a bit." The one who spoke was William Dante. He was in charge when Brent wasn't around. He was holding a stack of documents, and his back was straight. He didn't look like an office worker but more like an army man. "Thanks, Mr. Dante." William proceeded to introduce the others to her. "This is Aaron Dante, Tiago Bingley, and Clint Bingley." Olivia had already heard about them before she arrived. Aaron and William were brothers. Tiago and Clint were cousins. William pointed to the 2 remaining female assistants and said, "They are Grace Engel and Nancy Giles. Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Olivia Fordham. I'll be in your care." Olivia introduced herself with confidence. But her eyes were watching their expressions closely. Olivia thought that the secretaries would be her suspects if the person who manipulated her life was indeed hiding close to Ethan. Olivia was observing their expressions to see if they would reveal their true colors. But they were calm and composed. They greeted her and went back to work. Olivia touched her wrist. Was she wrong about that? She decided not to rush things. She decided to probe Grace first. She was the most recently recruited secretary other than herself. Olivia moved next to Grace. Grace's attitude towards her wasn't particularly friendly. But she also didn't look down on her. Olivia spent nearly 2 hours next to all the secretaries. She wasn't able to find anything suspicious about them. Brent allowed them to go home after they did overtime until 9 p.m. Nancy was full of smiles as soon as she got off work. She massaged her back and started to call her friends. It seemed like she was headed to a bar and was asking someone to save her a seat. She saw Olivia looking at her and gestured to Olivia with her chin. "You wanna come with me? It's a new bar. Lots of handsome guys. It can be your welcome party." Olivia didn't expect her to get friendly so suddenly. She waved her hands and said, "I can't. I still have some documents to tend to. I haven't even memorized Mr. Miller's preferences yet." Nancy withdrew her gaze from Olivia and said, "All right, maybe next time." Nancy was already walking away while talking. Aaron put his palm on his forehead and said, "Stay away from her. She's a bad influence. She flirts with men all the time." Olivia smiled sheepishly and looked at Grace. Grace was not a particularly beautiful woman. She looked very different compared to Nancy's charming appearance. She reminded Olivia of a teacher's pet. Someone who wears glasses and has plain looks but always excelled academically. Grace was packing her stuff up calmly. Her desk was very neat. It was like she had obsessive-compulsive disorder. Every single document was arranged neatly. She felt Olivia's gaze and looked at Olivia. Then, she said emotionlessly, "How can I help you?" Her voice was calm. Olivia wasn't able to discern any emotion from her words. It was like she was a robot. Even though her tone was flat, her words sent chills down Olivia's spine. Olivia smiled innocently at her and said, "Ms. Engel, your earrings are so pretty. I couldn't help but stare at them. Where did you buy them?" The earrings were the only accessory on Grace's person. They were small and shaped like roses. There were diamonds in the center of the earrings that shined brightly. "These are custom-made as per Mr. Miller's order. They were my year-end bonus for the year before," Grace said in a calm voice. "Is that so? Then I have to work hard to shoot for this year's year-end bonus," Olivia said while punching her fist in the air. Grace glanced at her and left after slinging her backpack on. William chipped in and said, "Don't think too much about it. She has always been cold." Olivia said gently, "Does this mean she's always been like that?" "That's right. I've barely ever seen her smile since she started working here. Although she's a cold person, she works rather efficiently." They chatted for a little bit more. Olivia was the last one to leave the office. She didn't go far and waited at the underground parking lot. Ethan rolled down the car window and said coldly, "Get in." Olivia followed him back to the Miller residence. This was the first time they went home from work together. Olivia was deep in thought on the ride home. The people she met at the office today all had different personalities. They all looked suspicious in their own way. Having regrets. Ethan had been typing on his laptop since he got in the car. It was unexpected for him to show her concern. He adjusted his glasses and said, "You can still change your mind now." Olivia raised the notebook in her hand. The notebook recorded all of Ethan's preferences. "I haven't finished memorizing it yet. Mr. Miller takes his coffee with 3 cubes of sugar. He likes his steak rare. His favorite fruits are cherries and blueberries." Olivia shut the notebook. She looked at Ethan seriously. "I seem to recall that you hated those fruits the most. You only eat medium rare steaks, and you never put any sugar in your coffee." If William hadn't reminded her not to get anything wrong, she would have thought that someone was setting her up for failure at the workplace. The list of preferences was the complete opposite of what Ethan actually liked. Ethan took the notebook from her hands and said, "You don't have to care about that." Ethan did not like people knowing about his preference. No one knew about his actual preferences except Olivia. "You need only do as you're told." The light from the laptop screen shone on Ethan's face. It made his expression look even colder. Olivia suddenly realized that she had never truly understood Ethan, whom she slept with. Ethan at work was a completely different person. She nodded and said, "I'll get used to it." Olivia frowned and looked at her serious expression. He found it hard to believe that she was going to be his secretary. How did she change so much in a day? Ethan had a lot of work piled up due to Olivia and Connor's disappearance a while ago. Even at home, he was still having video conferences and reading emails. Olivia took her laptop to the bed after she showered. Luckily, the restrictions Ethan put on her were temporarily lifted. She began searching for information on the laptop. She took particular notice of Ethan's schedule on the day of Jeff's car accident. It was Ethan and Leia's birthday that day. Usually, he wouldn't have anything planned on that day. But the G20 summit was held on that day. Ethan had to attend and give a speech because he was the chairman. It didn't matter if he went from the office or the Miller residence to the G20 summit venue. He wouldn't have gone past the street where the accident happened. That was unless he wanted to witness Jeff's death at the scene because he planned the whole thing. The other possibility was that he had no choice but to go there. There were several accidents on that day. It wasn't hard to look up. Olivia quickly found the news reports of the accidents. In the articles, Olivia saw 2 other car accidents that happened on Linden Street. Although they weren't as severe as Jeff's, they were enough to cause traffic jams. Coincidentally, Ethan's car showed up in one of the video clips. Even though it only appeared for a few frames, Olivia quickly spotted it. The clip was posted exactly 30 minutes before Jeff's accident. The street was the optimal path toward the G20 summit. Ethan's appearance here meant that he had intended to go to the summit. He only changed course because of the car accident. That was why he showed up at the scene of Jeff's accident. Olivia felt a chill down her spine when she saw the video. Her suspicions were confirmed. Someone else had been manipulating things from behind the scenes since 2 years ago. Both Ethan and her were pawns in that person's plan. Even her father's accident was planned by that person. It was done so that the blame would be pinned on Ethan. The person wanted to use her to hurt Connor in her anger. That would, in turn, hurt Ethan. It would also cause their relationship to be completely irreparable. If she hadn't changed her mind at the last second, Connor would have been dead. This person was wicked. Ethan opened the door and walked in. He glanced at her and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." Ethan saw the color drain from Olivia's face when he walked in. She looked very pale and unwell, even to the untrained eyes. Her hands were also shaking slightly. He frowned and quickly walked toward her. "What are you looking at?" Olivia did not try to hide it. Ethan saw the horrible accident. The scene was bloody. It was no wonder she looked pale. "There's nothing to see here." Ethan thought she accidentally came across the video. He was about to turn it off before he realized something was wrong. That wasn't a recent accident. Olivia turned her phone off and asked with a seemingly casual tone, "So, you were at the scene of my father's accident?" Ethan did not know that this was the reason she wanted to harm Connor before. So when she suddenly brought it up, he looked her in the eyes and said, "Yes. I was headed for the G20 summit that day. But there was an accident on the road, so I changed course. But I didn't expect to get to the scene of your father's accident." It was like what Olivia had thought. She was sure that someone was manipulating them in the shadows. And she almost became a tool for someone else's revenge plot. The person set up the incident with Leia's gravestone to let Ethan misunderstand Olivia. Then, there was the car accident that caused Olivia to misunderstand Ethan. So, the person's the reason why Ethan and Olivia were the way they were. This person was absolutely vile. Ethan saw that Olivia's face had become even paler. He realized that something was wrong. He said, "Are you thinking that I was the one that planned that accident?" He turned Olivia around by her shoulders. He said with a stern expression, "Stop your unrealistic delusions, Olivia. If I wanted to hurt him, he would have died a long time ago." Ethan continued in an icy tone, "And if I had wanted to hurt him, I wouldn't have dragged innocent people into it. I wouldn't have used other people's lives to cover up the truth. I have countless ways to kill somebody without raising suspicion." Before he could finish talking, Olivia dove into his embrace and put her arms around his waist. "I believe you," she said. Ethan reached out and held her chin. He forced her to meet his gaze. He was glaring at Olivia like an angry beast. "I don't know what you're plotting. It's true. Our breakup was ugly. I haven't treated you well these 2 years. I can understand if you hate me or if you blame me for your suffering. I am also clear that we could not go back to how it used to be, Olivia." He held her tightly and continued, "Even if we hated each other, and the path forward is tough, I will never let you go. Because of you, I would never hurt your father. No matter how much I hated him, nor how much I wanted him to die." Olivia's hand was hurting from his tight grip. His gaze was intense. It caused her face to flush and her heart to beat faster. Ethan slowly said everything he had been keeping to himself. "It's because I knew that if he died, our relationship would be completely severed. That was why I wouldn't let him die. I was the first one to call for an ambulance on the scene." Olivia was shocked. It seemed like she didn't expect him to do something like that. Given that it had come to this point, Ethan let out a deep sigh and said, "I have never had the intention to kill him back then nor right now. So you should keep your thoughts in check. It is below me to do such a thing." Olivia would never have believed him in the past. But she understood everything now, even if Ethan didn't explain himself. She opened her mouth. At that very moment, she had an urge to tell Ethan about everything. The idea flashed through her mind momentarily. But Ethan's scornful face quickly filled her thoughts. She knew that Ethan could take her words as she was trying to get her father off the hook. He had already mocked her countless times for her schemes. Moreover, if she told him what she knew before uncovering the truth, it might alert the mastermind and force him to switch things up. So, she suppressed her urge to tell Ethan what she knew. In reality, the existence of a mastermind wouldn't have affected their relationship. It was the fact that Ethan had an affair. Olivia was more composed than she used to be. She responded with a muffled sound. Olivia's mind was clearer than it ever was after she got the reply she wanted. She clutched Ethan's clothes tightly. Uncovering the truth had become her only reason to be alive. "Thank you for calling the ambulance. There is no need to look at something that happened so long ago. Let's go to bed." Ethan thought that Olivia was just frightened. He held her and went to sleep. The strange thing was that Olivia didn't mention Marina to him. It was as if they were back to how they were. But that was just a ruse. Olivia opened her eyes after Ethan fell asleep and moved away from him. She almost moved to the edge of the bed. She didn't want to have any physical contact with him. Ethan was true to his word. The next morning, Olivia heard a familiar voice early in the morning. "Wow, what a beautiful house. Jerry, can you make a painting of it? The timid teenager beside him tugged at him and said, you should tone it down a little when you're on someone else's turf. Don't forget how scary that man could be. Olivia heard their voices while she was going down the stairs. She immediately ran down the stairs. She saw the bright faces of the teenagers. Ms. Olivia. Olivia walked down the remaining steps and approached the teenagers. She was pleasantly surprised. How did you guys get here? A bunch of men came to the island yesterday. Some were measuring stuff, and some were roaming around. Some people even gave us some supplies. We were brought here early in the morning today. Wasn't it you who sent those people, Ms. Olivia? Olivia didn't expect Ethan to move so quickly. She quickly nodded. Ethan's voice came from around the corner, are you happy now? The two teenagers instinctively shielded Olivia behind their backs. They didn't expect to meet Ethan here. Don't be afraid, he won't hurt me. Olivia had already noticed the hint of anger in Ethan's eyes. She went up to him and held his arm. Why did you bring them here? She asked. Aren't you the one who cares so much about them? Ethan pointed at Jerry and said, I've handled their enrollment procedures. This one has talent in painting. So he is going to study at a professional art college. As for that troublemaker, the police academy suits him. Olivia didn't know what price Ethan had to pay to get them into the institutions. But she was happy that he thought about that. Thank you, Olivia said wholeheartedly. Ethan adjusted his cufflinks and said, I've asked the HR department to handle your job application. Come to work on time, 3 days from now. Ethan left without having breakfast. It was as if he was deliberately giving them some time together. Olivia realized that he seemed to have changed. He felt a little like his former self. As soon as he left, Tom and Jerry became talkative. They asked her about everything. They handed her a piece of paper when no one was around. It had a phone number written on it. Olivia called the number. A familiar voice came from the phone, It's me. Are you doing okay? Yeah. Jack's voice was still emotionless. Olivia told him about what happened on the island. He wasn't too surprised. I knew you would keep your promise. Olivia bit her lip and told him her concerns. Jack, can you help me with something? You're the only one I trust right now. Jack agreed to Olivia's request without any hesitation. Tom and Jerry spent a long time catching up with Olivia. Ms. Olivia, Jack left the island shortly after you did. He should have come to Aldenvine. If you need his help, you can contact him in private. Do you guys know his background? Olivia felt that Jack was very mysterious. He was a man who owned a lot of firearms. And she still doesn't know what he looked like. The information that Calvin dug up was definitely going to be limited. Jack was different. He might have special channels to gather more information. In addition, Jack was a mysterious entity. The mastermind would not know about his existence. Jack washed up on our shores a few years ago. He was on the brink of death when he arrived. Mom saved his life. He didn't seem to have any family, so he stayed on our island. But I think he might be an incredible person. His marksmanship is excellent. Tom scratched his head in embarrassment at the mention of marksmanship. Ms. Olivia, I was too nervous that day. I almost hit you accidentally. But your ex-husband was good to you. He protected you almost instinctively. Tom was honest with his emotions. It was true that he hated Ethan. But he was also able to acknowledge his good qualities. Olivia didn't want to talk about Ethan. She patted him on the head and said, "You have been given a unique chance. So, you have to study hard to make a name for yourself and make Martha proud." Understood, Ms. Olivia. Since she hadn't started work yet, Olivia brought them to visit a famous local art exhibit. It was the first time Jerry was in such a close encounter with these art pieces. He was immensely moved. He did not know where to look. Tom did not understand him. He shrugged and said, "I know there are book nerds. I think he's an art nerd. What's so interesting about these paintings? His reaction is too over the top." Olivia laughed softly and said, "It's only natural you can't feel what he feels. It's because you don't share his passion for art." She was able to put down her hatred temporarily when she was with them. It was as if she was back on the island, living a carefree life. She saw that Jerry was standing in front of a painting for a long time. She approached him and asked, "What are you looking at? You look like you're in a trance." Jerry snapped back into reality. His eyes were filled with joy, shining like stars in the night. "Ms. Olivia, look at this painting. It is so exquisite." Olivia looked at the painting and was taken aback. This painting, the painting depicted a sunrise in the mountains. The sunlight burst forth from beyond the hills and showered its light on everything, giving them a golden glow. The mountains were lush with greenery. Birds were soaring in the air, and squirrels were carrying pine cones on trees. In the distance, there was a cottage with smoke rising from its chimney. A stream of water flowed down the edge of the mountains. It felt like the painting encompassed all of creation. It depicted an image full of life and gave off a feeling of being immersed in the beauty of life. "Ms. Olivia, do you know who painted this? That person must be so enlightened and kind-hearted." Olivia pursed her lips and muttered slowly, "I painted this." "What? You painted this, Ms. Olivia?" Jerry had seen Olivia's current style before. It was completely different from the painting in front of them. Olivia almost forgot that she used to study under the master painter Constantine Harrington. The heirs of wealthy families were provided with quality education from a young age. Olivia happened to have a talent for many things and was the final student of Constantine. She painted this at the age of 13. But she didn't expect it to be displayed in an art exhibit. She recalled her brilliant achievements in the past and compared them to her misfortune. Everything changed because of one man. It was too pitiful. Olivia suddenly heard a commotion coming from the side. It would seem like someone important had arrived. Tom was sucking on a lollipop. He pointed not far away and said, "Ms. Olivia, isn't that Connor?" Olivia looked toward where he was pointing and saw the familiar faces. It was Ethan and his family. Marina was carrying Connor in her arms and holding Ethan's arm with a smile. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.